I'm Craig Blumenshine from Prairie Public, and this is a closer look with the Monitor, our weekly conversation that goes beyond the headlines with reporters from the North Dakota Monitor, digging into the policy decisions and political dynamics shaping life across North Dakota. This week, we're focusing on the fragile state of rural health care. A critical access hospital in Elgin, North Dakota is on the brink of closing, and lawmakers right now are considering emergency legislation during a special session that could determine whether it survives. Joining me from the state capitol is North Dakota Monitor reporter Jacob Orledge. He's been covering the financial crisis at Jacobson Memorial Hospital in Elgin and the bill that the legislators are looking to advance to try to keep its doors open. Jacob, welcome back to A Closer Look with the Monitor.
Thanks for having me back again, Craig.
You're sure welcome, Jacob. Describe for us, please, Jacobson Memorial Hospital.
So Jacobson Memorial Hospital is a critical access hospital in Elgin, in Grant County. That's in southwest North Dakota. The hospital has 30 beds, roughly the right size for a critical access hospital, an emergency room. It operates 3 healthcare clinics, one in Elgin, another in Richardson, and a third in Glen Ullin. And then there's also an associated ambulance service that works with the hospital. The hospital operates those ambulances and pays for the staffing. And then the hospital also has a number of swing beds included in that 30-bed total that are used for long-term care on a swing bed basis.
Now, Jacob, you described Jacobson Memorial Hospital as being essentially, fiscally here, payroll to payroll. How close is this hospital to closure? And what tipped leaders into saying that, hey, action is needed now during this special session, not later?
Well, the phrase payroll to payroll was actually a quote given to me by the hospital's current administrator, Kristen Hyde. She is the chief operating officer of the hospital, and she's acting as the lead administrator because they do not currently have a chief executive officer, a CEO. According to Kristen Hyde, when I spoke to her last week, they're operating payroll to payroll, and they're just hoping enough revenue comes in every pay period to meet the next payroll and pay their staff. She said that 2 pay periods ago, they had to take out a line of credit with their local bank to meet payroll. Now, further statements today from Matt Hager, a member of the hospital's board, when he was testifying in front of lawmakers during the special session. He said that they were able to meet the last payroll comfortably, but they are still in relatively dire straits financially. If the hospital can't meet their payroll at any given point, there is a danger that it will have to close down. Today, Matt Hager, the board member, stated that the board has been considering all options in response to a question. He mentioned that they had considered declaring bankruptcy at one point, and he also added that even if they do not get this bridge loan from the state, the board will continue to pursue all avenues and attempt to stay open. That is the state of affairs as it stands right now.
Give us a sense, if you can, what the closure would actually mean for Elgin and surrounding communities, and not just for healthcare access, but for jobs, emergency services, daily life.
So it would have a very significant impact on local daily life. The hospital employs 130 people. Just for size comparison's sake, Elgin, the city the hospital is located in, has 543 residents as of the 2020 census. The county it is located in, Grant County, has 2,301 people according to the 2020 census. So as Hager pointed out during today's hearing, those 130 jobs represent 5% of all jobs in that county. There's also the ambulance service that's closely tied to the hospital. There's those 3 clinics. There's the hospital itself. There's the swing beds for long-term care. All of that would potentially close if the hospital was forced to close its doors.
The special session that is now underway in Bismarck, of course, is focused on federal rural health transformation program money that likely will come to the state. In your discussions with legislative leaders, why Was this crisis warranted inclusion in this overall discussion about the Rural Health Transformation Program now?
So the supporters of this bill see it as fulfilling essentially the same mission. It does not. This money is not coming from the federal funding, the Rural Healthcare Transformation Program funding. That was the cause of the special session and why it was called. But those dollars are intended to help transform rural health care in places like North Dakota and specifically like Elgin, North Dakota. The supporters of the bill see this bill as helping to keep open one of those rural hospitals that the federal funding is also intended to help. So the supporters of the bill really see this as one and the same mission there.
Prior to the session, this bill advanced unanimously. What have you heard from lawmakers about their feeling of the urgency of the situation? Has it been certainly communicated well?
Yes, I think everybody is on the same page in that this is extremely urgent, and that's why it was allowed to be introduced into the special session. Just for a bit of background on that, there were 5 bills that were guaranteed to be introduced into the special session. Those 5 bills were associated with the rural health care dollars coming from the federal government. And then on Tuesday of this week, legislative management, a committee of legislative leaders, met Tuesday afternoon to consider proposals from lawmakers for other bills and to hear their pitch on why those bills were urgent and important enough to warrant inclusion in what the legislature hopes is only going to be a 3-day special session. There were 19 bills that were proposed. The Legislative Management Committee accepted 7 of them, and those 7 were introduced today during special session. One of those 7 was the Elgin Hospital bill. And essentially the bar to clear that lawmakers were looking for is that this was very important and that it cannot wait for the regular session that's going to be beginning in 2027, approximately a year from now.
I want our listeners to know that Jacob and I are visiting on Wednesday evening. And when he speaks of today, he's talking about Wednesday, even though this will air on Thursday on Main Street. Let me ask you about the bill itself. I would like you to, to walk us through it. How would this emergency low interest program work and what safeguards are built in?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do that. Just a quick note before I do. I do want to note that, like you mentioned, I am speaking at approximately 7 o'clock Central Time on Wednesday evening. And as we speak right now, the Joint Appropriations Committee is still meeting tonight. And one of the bills that they have yet to discuss is this bill that we are talking about regarding emergency loans for hospitals in North Dakota. And so anything that I say now, this bill could potentially be amended tonight or tomorrow, Thursday, when it's on the floor. But to the bill itself, the bill would essentially add on to an existing loan program. There's a loan program called the Medical Facility Infrastructure Loan Program, and this bill would add on to it with essentially a sub-program called the Emergency Operating Loan Program. These emergency loans would be available to nonprofit hospitals in cities under 2,500 population. The hospitals will have to, assuming the bill passes, the hospitals will have to apply for the loans by March 31st. They'll have to submit financial information, an operating plan moving forward, cash flow projections, and any other associated documentation to prove that their business model is sustainable moving forward. These applications and all of these associated documents will be being submitted to the Bank of North Dakota, which will be administering the program. The Bank of North Dakota will then evaluate the application and make a determination as to whether they wish to grant the loan. The loan itself $10 million in total is proposed to be appropriated for this program. Any loan to an individual hospital will be capped at $5 million. The interest on that loan will be capped at 2%. The term of the loan cannot exceed 11 years, and the first year of the loan's payback can be interest only at the Bank of North Dakota's discretion. As far as safeguards, that will be up to the Bank of North Dakota. They will be handling that process. And the bill's sponsor, Senator Donald Shipley of District 31, said that in his discussions with the Bank of North Dakota, he was told that the bank would likely hire outside consultants to do an evaluation of the hospital's business plan because the Bank of North Dakota themselves are not healthcare experts, and they'd like to get that outside opinion on the hospital's business plan. Now, that is something that was told to Senator Shipley, and Senator Shipley then told to me and to other lawmakers.
Lawmakers have emphasized that this is not a gift, and I use that in quotes. First of all, is that correct? And then how significant is the requirement that hospitals demonstrate a viable business plan that you just talked about to regain solvency?
I will tackle the second half of that first, and that will be largely up to the Bank of North Dakota unless the bill is amended to require certain specifications between now and passage. As far as it not being a gift, quote unquote gift, that is, when they say it's not a gift, they mean it is not a grant. If a hospital is awarded a $5 million loan through this program, as currently proposed, they will have to pay it back. It will not be forgivable or anything like that. The idea is to essentially restructure their debt at a lower interest rate. They will still have to pay it back. It will not be a grant, and therefore, as the supporters have said, it will not be a quote-unquote gift.
Jacob, is it your sense that this bill was designed solely with Elgin in mind, or are there thoughts or concerns that other hospitals soon could qualify?
I will say yes and no to that question. Yes, in the sense that this bill was prompted by the Jacobson Memorial Hospital situation in Elgin, and it was designed with their situation in mind. It was written with a deliberately narrow set of requirements, eligibility requirements, and a very narrow application window to ensure this isn't a long-term program.
I'm Craig Blumenshine, and you're listening to A Closer Look with the Monitor. It's our weekly conversation that goes beyond the headlines, and it's with reporters from the North Dakota Monitor. This week, we're focusing on the fragile state of rural healthcare, and specifically a critical access hospital in Elgin, North Dakota, that's on the brink of closing. Jacob Orlich from the North Dakota Monitor. He's a reporter, and he's been covering the financial crisis at Jacobson Memorial Hospital. He is my guest. I want to talk about accountability and oversight. Jacob, you pointed out that financial audits have showed serious internal weaknesses at the hospital. How did those findings then influence lawmakers' thinking about whether to step in?
So I can't speak for lawmakers thinking themselves, but they have not mentioned the audits until this afternoon. And the context of this afternoon was asking if there was a more recent audit than the 2023 audit that is available online, and there is not. The audit that I found from 2023 in the course of my reporting did note several concerns that the auditors had raised to the board, primarily concerning internal controls on the flow of money due to limited staffing, which is not terribly unusual for a smaller facility in a rural area. But I do not believe, or at least I have not been told, that those audits played a role in this topic.
Do you have a sense of whether the hospital's board have already made some changes to address that 2023 audit?
I can't answer that question in relation to the 2023 audit. What I can tell you is that the board became aware of this current situation and the severity of this current situation last summer. Kristen Hyde, the hospital's administrator told me the board began becoming aware of just how bad the financial situation was in August or September of last year, 2025. And almost immediately, they began getting more involved with the hospital's operations, and they began taking a larger role there. Fast forward to November of last year, and the hospital parted ways with their then chief executive officer. Kristen Hyde took over as the lead administrator for the hospital as the chief operating officer. And since then, the board has put together a strategic plan to essentially return the hospital to solvency. Think of this as a business plan moving forward. And they've begun implementing a lot of the associated measures, right-sizing staff without any layoffs, by adjusting titles and not filling vacant positions and things of that nature. They have stopped outsourcing billing operations, which was done under the previous administration with the hospital, and they've returned that in-house, and they believe that's going to make a significant difference. And then there were also other revenue operations that they've made tweaks to that they believe will maximize revenue moving forward through programs like the 340B program and others. So the hospital, according to Kristen Hyde, the administrator, and Matt Hager, the board member who spoke to lawmakers today, both said that the hospital has already begun making changes. There are more changes in the future, and they are very confident they will return to a positive cash flow by December 2026.
Jacob, you've noted that other hospitals, other rural hospitals in North Dakota are struggling, but not to the same degree. Does the Elgin case reveal anything about the broader vulnerability of North Dakota's critical rural access hospitals?
I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer that question, Craig. What I can tell you is that I did speak to Tim Blazel with the North Dakota Hospital Association, and he said that many critical access hospitals that are described as financially struggling are usually year to year, whether they show a profit or if they are in the red. And they usually find a way to make it work over the long term. That differs from the situation in Elgin, where the Jacobson Memorial Hospital is simply in financial trouble right now. It's not year to year. They need to take measures now. I would say, based on the interviews I've conducted, based on the comments from lawmakers during Tuesday's legislative management meeting and during today's hearings, I would say the main takeaway that nobody would disagree with is that the boards of nonprofit hospitals like this one need to stay involved and ensure that they are staying educated on the operations of their hospital and the healthcare industry as a whole, and just ensure that that oversight and that accountability is always present, so that if there is an issue, they can take action before it snowballs into the current situation.
Jacob, do you sense, of course, the special session will extend now through Friday. Do you have any sense of whether hurdles will stand between this bill and the actual money reaching the hospital in Elgin, Jacobson Memorial?
It's too soon to say. Like I mentioned a few moments ago, the Joint Appropriations Committee is meeting as we speak, so there could be amendments and material changes to the bill in its current form before we all leave the Capitol tonight. What I can tell you is that if the bill one way or the other will go to the floor and be considered by the full House and the full Senate over the course of the next 2 days, if that bill is approved and put into law in one form or another, the governor will have to sign it, and then the process will shift into the Bank of North Dakota's hands and the hands of any hospitals that wish to apply. They'll go through that application process, and the Bank of North Dakota will make those determinations, and how it shakes out is up to them.
Is there any sense of how quickly, going through that process you described, the hospital in Elgin could then realistically capture those funds to help it stay open?
Not as of this point. The only hard date that we have right now is that the application window will close on March 31st of this year. So that is the deadline for any hospitals to submit applications for the loans. Of course, they can submit applications sooner, and then the Bank of North Dakota can begin their evaluation process sooner.
That's Jacob Orledge. He's a reporter with the North Dakota Monitor. You can read his and all of his team's coverage of the special session, including the future of Jacobson Memorial Hospital in Elgin, at northdakotamonitor.com. All of the Monitor's reporting is available without paywalls or subscriptions, and you can subscribe to A Closer Look with the Monitor, our weekly podcast, wherever you get your favorites. This podcast will be posted weekly, Friday mornings on the Monitor's website at northdakotamonitor.com and all major podcast platforms. It's also available on Main Street's broadcast and as a Prairie Public podcast. Jacob, thank you so much for helping us take a closer look.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
That's A Closer Look with the Monitor. I'm Craig Blumenshine.